Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. I'm Gülcüler. I'm a computer science student at Warszawa University of Technology, and I'm a Rotaract at Warszawa Fryderyk Chopin Club. Today, me and my colleague is going to inform you about polio and Rotary involvement about polio.
Hello everyone, I'm Çığırgan from Ankara Tandoğan Rotaract Club. I am a biologist basically, so I'm very interested in polio, and me and Alp are going to come together to uh, dig deep and try to explain everything that we know about polio virus and Rotary and polio. Yeah, I hope you enjoy.
So basically, we can start. What is polio? Polio, short for poliomyelitis, is a highly contagious viral disease caused by the poliovirus. It primarily affects the nervous system and can lead to varying degrees of paralysis, including potentially permanent muscle weakness or even death in severe. The poliovirus can pose a significant risk, primarily affecting children under the age of 5. That is why vaccinating children has been a key component in the worldwide campaign to eliminate polio. What are the symptoms and effects of polio? Polio paralyzes muscles used in breathing, such as lungs, causing death in 2 to 10 out of every 100 infected individuals. And this is why iron lungs used. Iron lungs are basically, as you can see on the photo, manual working lungs. Therefore, a person paralyzed by polio cannot breathe himself. So he needs to be attached to an iron lung in every part of life. This is crucial. He needs to be attached to every iron lung in every part of life. In additionally, there is a movie called Breathe, featuring Andrew Garfield, highlighting the challenges posed by life in an iron lung. It's a very good film about the consequences of polio. Also, even polio didn't cause death. We can see the effects of poliovirus, such as having different lengths of legs, movement disorders. Furthermore, even a person affected by polio but recovered without any permanent damage can get paralyzed and muscle weakness in the future, and it is called polio syndrome. So, if we want to talk about how is polio transmitted, polio is only transmitted from person to person. This is very important because uh, person to person means we need to therefore countries with unclean water and food sources are greater risk. Person to person means like Syria. I can give an example. For example, like the outbreak of the Syrian civil war disrupted essential healthcare and sanitation services. So that in the Syria, when there was a civil war, water and food was unclean, and this led to the resurgence of polio in Syria, 2012. This outbreak was eventually contained through the efforts of the World Health Organization. What are the statistics of polio today? This is the most important thing. As you can see on the photo, there is red ones and the green ones. Before I'm explaining that one, the number of new polio cases, which was 350,000 in the 1988, decreased by 99% to only 74 cases in 2015. Thanks to the efforts of Rotary and Global Polio Eradication Initiative, polio is only found in 3 countries. Cases total of 14: Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Mozambique. As you can see on the photo, red ones are wild poliovirus, WPV, which is the naturally occurring form of the poliovirus. It is the virus that causes the majority of polio cases around the world. This is important. And the green and the orange ones are mutated from the poliovirus that originates from the oral polio vaccine. They can emerge in the areas with the low vaccination coverage. Vaccination is important. For much more understanding polio, we should look to the history of polio. In the early 1950s, a major polio epidemic broke out, primarily in the United States, but affecting countries worldwide. This is epidemic, caused widespread panic, with families being advised to keep their children indoors, and places where people gathered, such as cinemas and swimming pools, were closed. Because polio can only transmit from person to person. That's why it's important. In 1988, the World Health Organization, WHO initiated the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. With partners, this global campaign aimed to eradicate polio worldwide through the vaccination efforts. Over the years, the GPI made significant progress in reducing polio cases, and by the 21st century, polio remained endemic in only few countries. As I mentioned before this slide, these few countries are Pakistan, Mozambique, and Afghanistan. So we are that close to eradicate polio, and if we do it, it will be the second worldwide disease eradicated from Earth. However, like any viral disease, we shouldn't stop vaccinating people. Polio can spread rapidly and could reinfect as many as 200,000 people in just 10 years. This is why it's crucial to continue polio vaccination efforts and work towards the complete eradication of polio. So, as I mentioned, why vaccination is important, why are we still giving all the attention to vaccination when polio is seen in only three countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Mozambique? Vaccination also protects those who cannot be vaccinated. Vaccination is essential not only for countries where polio is still present, but also countries where it has been eliminated. In the modern era, where we can travel from one end of the world to the other in 24 hours, just in a one day, continuous protection has become necessity. If we do not continue our efforts to vaccinate against polio, the number of polio cases could easily rise from 14 to 200,000 by 2026. Furthermore, some people may not be able to receive the polio vaccine due to allergies or due to some conditions. For their protection, it is crucial for every individual to be vaccinated. This is known as a herd immunity in biology. Vaccinated individuals act as a barrier between vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals and those who are already sick, reducing the likelihood of disease spreading from an infected person and unvaccinated person. This barrier is particularly important for us because the poliovirus can only be transmitted from person to person. What happens if herd immunity and vaccination efforts fail? I can give an example. For example, in Nigeria in 2015, a religious fatwa that discouraged people from getting vaccinated led to polio outbreak in the same year, causing polio to affect children again and their region. Polio cases began to reappear in Nigeria in 2016. Secondly, vaccination is important. Why? Because polio is a disease without a cure. After contracting polio, no medication can fight against it. Therefore, vaccination is the only solution against polio. There are two types of vaccines in use today: the inactivated polio vaccine and the oral polio vaccine. The oral polio vaccine is more commonly preferred in the fight because it is much easier to manage and transport. That is why you see the oral drops, all the posters and pictures related to the fight against polio. As you can see on the right photo, it is the oral polio vaccine. The polio vaccine was discovered in the form of injectable, left one, Salk vaccine in 1956. But major advancements in the fight against polio happened after the oral polio vaccine, the right one, was developed because it is much easier to transport and manage.
Yeah, so let's talk about Rotary and polio. As Alp said before, the major advancement happened after 1960s when oral polio vaccine have been found. It is used heavily in countries, the first world countries, first of all, by nationwide efforts, and it is seen, especially in Czechoslovakia in 1960s, that this method is working to eradicate polio. This is further adopted by other first world countries. However, what happened is more of a uh, nationwide fight instead of a global fight. This is where actually Rotary International came in. Rotary International collaborated with the Philippines Health Ministry of the Philippines in 1979 to uh, vaccinate children, around 6 million children in a week to start the first global fight against polio. Seeing the success of this project, Rotary International launched something called Polio Plus. Polio Plus is basically the first largest internationally coordinated private sector support of a public health initiative. So what does that mean? It basically means that private bodies came together to support a public health problem, which is really important, and it's been done here for the very first time. This allowed us to allow the humanity to fight against polio more effectively. Rotary started first with a fundraising target of $120 million with the goal of eradicating polio worldwide. In 1995, the Polio Plus project is expanded into something called Polio Plus Partners, in which Rotary International members of the Rotary International were allowed to support people who were affected support the Rotary members who were affected in in countries that still had polio disease. So basically, polio-free countries, Rotary members in polio-free helping Rotary members and countries their children in polio-ridden countries, which happened during the very successful project of 100 immunizing 65 million children in 1 week, which is done in India. So Polio Plus also has an additional focus of supporting people in polio-affected regions. Polio Plus has this additional focus because of the fact that what Rotary International tries to do is to get vaccination to places that is hard to get by other communities or other governments. That is the reason, which also helps them to connect with people who are in very impoverished and disadvantageous areas, and seeing that their lives are also in a quite difficult place. Rotary also tries to help with the supply or donations of medical and technical equipment, assisting access to fresh water in those regions, and hygiene products as well. Also, they create jobs for locals and administering other desperately needed medical treatment. These combined efforts are estimated to have prevented the deaths of 1.21 million people by decreasing their susceptibility to other infectious diseases and increase the quality of millions of people living in disadvantaged areas. In fact, I would like to stop this here. This is one of the most beautiful pictures of Polio Plus, actually. So in the left one, you can see that Rotary donated goats to a farmer so that to a, let's say, animal husband, in order for him to have a job. While in the right one, you can see that basically with the help of Rotary, a market that can supply goods to the people has been created. So it's one of the key components, I think, in Polio Plus. That I think this is one of the key and most beautiful components in Polio Plus. The ability to not just give out vaccines and be done with it, but rather try to increase the quality of life in people who are in such a disadvantageous state that even polio vaccine cannot reach to them, and they need help, about it. So we can move on. I just wanted to show this picture. I think this is a beautiful picture, and yeah, there's like a lot to take in. So let's talk about Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Before that, I would like to give out one more thing. The Rotary International, along with its Polio Plus project and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, actively worked against Ebola outbreak in Nigeria in 2014 and the yellow fever outbreak in the same region in 2018 as well. So as you can see, because of the polio plus, because polio has a plus in it, we were able to do much more than just supplying vaccines. So as things stand, Polio Plus program, along with Global Polio Eradication Initiative, is going strong. So what is Global Polio Eradication Initiative? Alp also discussed it as GPEI, and they're basically the main UN-based body that is founded after the success of the Polio Plus project of the Rotary International. It has 6 core partners, which are Rotary International, World Health Organization, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention, United Nations Children's Fund, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. So this initiative started in 1988 with the resolution that passed in the World Health Assembly. So because of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, in its start in 1988, as you can see on the left, there are many countries, especially in Asia, Africa, South America, and Middle America. There are many countries that were suffering from this disease. However, in our current times, as you can see here, there's only Mozambique, Afghanistan, and Pakistan left. So Global Polio Eradication Initiative, along with the Polio Plus program of Rotary, in which in both cases Rotary was super involved, caused a 99.9% decrease in the incidence of polio virus, which is, I don't know about you, but that's a massive success for me. Currently, with Polio Plus and Global Polio Eradication Initiative, Rotary International and its members have contributed over $1 billion in funding and decreased the endemic incidence of polio to 3 countries. We have also helped immunize more than 2.5 billion children, not million, billion children, against polio in 122 countries. We are this close to eliminating polio completely. So, what can any of us do to eradicate polio completely? We can learn about polio vaccination and share our knowledge as we're doing now, and we can also donate. 1 dose of polio vaccine is currently around $1. Furthermore, any donation made is tripled by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So, with 1 vaccine, you're contributing to 3 children being vaccinated. So, why should we fight against? Because we discussed it all we said, 99.9% decrease, etc. So it's going fine, and we're this close, right? We talked quite a bit about it. I can summarize this in 5 distinct topics. One of them is to improve lives, because polio, as I mentioned, is a very debilitating disease. To invest in the future, because as you know, polio affects children of under the age of 5, and children are our future. Obviously, to improve child health, because as I've discussed again, child health or health of any individual is severely affected with polio, even if they survive. To save money, because polio treatment is expensive. Those iron lugs, as you can see, they're huge contraptions, so which costs a bunch of money. And finally, and I think the most importantly, is to make history. I've also mentioned that in order to if we eradicate polio, it will be only the second viral disease that is eliminated from the planet. The first one being smallpox, a very, by the way, dangerous. is that, so the first one being smallpox and the second one being polio. In the, let's say, 10,000 years of modern human history, it will be only the second disease that will be completely eradicated. I think that will make history, and I think that will be an excellent job to do, and I would love everyone to have a part in that. So, as we are this close to eradicating polio, our any and all contributions will matter to the people who are still fighting the disease and who may fight disease in the future. As Rotaract and Rotarians, we can not only donate, but we can also take part in vaccination efforts as well. As long as we have credentials for it, for instance, as long as we have credentials for it, because administrating vaccines need small credentials. For instance, I've recently seen that a Rotaract club in Netherlands recently went to India to be a part of the vaccination process. So there's a lot to do. We're this close. I believe that we can fix this, we can eradicate this disease in the next 20 years. Thank you for listening to me.